we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Hello and welcome. I'm your guest host, Gary Murphy, standing in tonight for Joe Cristiano. Last week we had hoped to have Joe here tonight in the studio, but we're having the next best thing. Tonight we're going to have Joe via telephone, and we're going to discuss some important things. Things that are on his mind, things that are on our minds, things that are on your mind, and ask Joe some questions, and then we'll be talking to some of the folks here in our studio. We have, a lot of folks here tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we only have 4 microphones, so it'll be a microphone fist fest, I guess. Anyway, and, that's really why we're here, is to discuss these important ideas, because we need to be revolutionaries in thought and dissidents in action. Only after we recognize that our government is going, or what is our government is doing to our freedom, our Constitution, will we start to take it back. And that's what this program's all about. That's why Joe founded the program Liberty Talk Radio, and that's why we're all behind it, and we're all working to speak out, use our First Amendment rights to tell the story of freedom, tell the story of liberty. So, for those of you who were not with us last week, Joe is taking care of a few items in the hospital this week, or last couple of weeks. He's getting what you might call a 60,000-mile checkup and tune-up. If you're listening, Joe, we wish you could be here in the studio with us tonight, and wish you a very fast recovery, and we hope you'll be in next week with us. But even if you're not, we'll be holding the fort down till you get back in full swing. We have a great program tonight. We'll let you introduce to some of the crew here tonight. And if I had my cameraman, he could actually, I need a cameraman over here so we can shoot the audience, because we just lost him. I think he went to the restroom or something. Anyway, we'll also be taking your calls, and you can even call right now if you had a question that was just burning. The receiver off of your hand and you want to give us a call, that's 855-866-1170. That's 855-866-1170. Let's go around the room, and tonight, go ahead and introduce yourselves on the microphones. You guys, we got 4 of them. You don't have to fight.
Hi.
Okay. That was all.
My name is Derek. How are you doing?
All right, Derek. Great. Hey, Joe, we have Derek with us tonight.
Tim Hager's here.
Andrea Mitchell.
Kevin Hicks.
Piper Hager. Camille Hager.
Gary Varner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad we have a whole studio group to help me, because I'm not very good at this. I'm doing my best I can to hold down the fort. Hey, before we go into talking about some of the things that we had thought about discussing and asking Joe about, wanted to thank our great sponsors, Ranch Acres Audio. They help you communicate better by helping you hear better. And Mac Cool Firearms, a place where you can buy and sell firearms. It's a judgment-free zone, as we talked about last week. You can go in there, and the folks will treat you just like you were an expert, except they'll teach you some things and show you where to get hooked up, you get your carry license, that type of thing. And also the Green Beetle, where you can get prepared and stay prepared, because you never know when you might get caught unprepared. So anyway, we've got some great sponsors. Please visit with them. You'll hear their commercials on the program as we broadcast tonight. And, there's a lot of things happening right now. And, nationally, internationally, it's just like a barrage of things hit us in the news and on the alternative news. And sometimes our head spins.
Okay.
What, Gary?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's one in particular that has been on my mind that is bothered me a little bit, and Joe wanted me to make up some talking points for it, but we'll see how this goes. First and foremost, we have... What was that about?
I don't know.
First and foremost, we have the heading. It is Obama vows to fix immigration crisis. And obviously the first question for this is, what does it mean to fix? I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, allow me to fix your wife.
So,
you know what I mean?
So what is
what
wrong
is
with immigration?
what is wrong with immigration.
Yeah, what is wrong with immigration?
How about all the kids in all those camps for the first thing? But I mean, I think it's pretty common what we know, like all the different things that are happening. It's just how the president has dealt with it has been really interesting to me.
That's the problem that bugs me, guys, is that we have a created problem, and the guy that created the problem, who's got people out overseas inviting people to come in wholesale and promising, a free lunch, basically. Anybody would come for a free lunch. Shoot, if Ecuador or any other country down in, the Caribbean, a very nice place to live where the weather's great, and said to us, come on down here. You get a paycheck and you get all the food you need.
Benefits.
Hey, I'm coming.
I'll leave after this show.
Well, this
Right,
is interesting.
of course, everybody, that's what's happened. Is
Right.
the government has actually created this crisis where we have thousands of people entering the country, and they're not going through normal written rules of law for immigration. Either we have laws or we don't have laws.
Well, this is interesting, but apparently there have been people claiming that the law enforcement that are supposed to be guarding the border, they're just letting them cross. Like, they have cameras, and they are literally watching people cross the border, and they're not doing a thing about it.
No, they've been asked to stand down. Mm-hmm. Now, whether you're on one side or another about the the immigration situation. A lot of libertarians, I believe I am a libertarian basically in my thought, but, I'm also an American citizen who believes in a constitution with the rule of law, and that, if you're a sovereign country, there's not a sovereign country in the world that does not have an immigration policy that, checks out who's coming into the country.
So are these hungry, starving people from Mexico coming across the border?
Some of them look like they're doing
here?
pretty good. Some of them don't. I don't know. They're just bringing them in.
So, and we're feeding them, right? I mean,
we're feeding them.
And so we're giving away everything for free, right?
Yeah, right.
My taxes are...
Your taxes are paying for them.
I'm
My
just checking
taxes
it,
are
yeah.
paying for them. And, I don't really mind helping people. That's not the whole idea here. It's the issue of whether or not whether we're even going along with our rules and regulations we've set up for ourselves and the rules for us to live by. It's just being like, if you're the head of a household and you're and you have certain rules. People have a curfew in the home. The children have a curfew. You have a yard. And there's certain responsibilities to keep up that yard. If you just say, oh, whatever, bring all your friends in. We got plenty of beds. Just set pallets out in the living room. Everybody can stay here. Go in the refrigerator, eat all you want. You wouldn't, if you lived like that. How long would you last in a standard household?
Well, that's another question. What does Obama say he's going to do about it?
Yeah, what is it? Good question.
Fix it. That's what he says he's going to do.
Fix
it. Yeah, he's going to make.
We can.
The quote from the Wall Street Journal is, "He's going to make the process smarter."
Oh, we got a caller. I think we've stirred up a mess here.
Dennis from Tulsa.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I just wanted to kind of jump in there, man. If it's a two-way street, I got an opinion about it and a solution.
What is your opinion?
I didn't invent the solution. It was invented many years ago. I mean, these people, irresponsible parents are taking children, putting them on the top of trains and sending them to America. And the solution is already in place. We have things called missions and missionaries, people that are, have basically laid down their lives or would lay their lives down to help these people in their country. They don't even have to go through all this trouble of sending an anchor over here across the border. And, we have missionaries. We have, people that have compassion and they feel moved to give thousands and millions and billions of dollars to their churches to fund these missionaries and missions.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
They do not have to risk their kid's life. I mean, imagine if you went today and took your kid and just stuck him in a cab and told the cab driver, just drive south to the border, you would go to jail. And not only that, shame on you. I mean, that's the mentality.
Exactly. That's a good point. These are all good points. It doesn't make sense, does it? Now, of course, the missionaries overseas, when they get there, they do help, of course, in these communities. They try to create some type of commerce for them. They have schools and stuff like that.
Educate them.
Yeah, and they feed them, clothe them, do that kind of stuff. Exactly.
They
And-
all have medical people. They bring down.
Yeah.
Every church worth its salt puts together a team, and they go every summer, every winter. We go all over the world.
Right.
There has to be
Right.
another agenda, and that's.
And I think that's what the whole problem is. There's another agenda to this whole issue. Thank you, caller. That is an excellent point right there.
Okay, well, you said one thing, though. You said, the amnesty part of it, okay? Coming over the border, dropping an anchor, and getting your piece of paper, amnesty. Okay, I'm an adoptive father. I went halfway around the world and got my kid from another country and bring him in through the gate. I took American Airlines when we landed on the deck in Dallas. You go straight to the INS office, and you follow all the rules. You do all the paperwork. It's a real pain in the ass. And it costs $20,000. When it's all said and done, it costs $20,000. And it's not really fair for President Obama to just allow people to come over and skip that part of the process. I mean, I don't mind.
Well, the reason you have the process is so that the child goes with a responsible family, and then that family accepts the responsibility personally and makes sure that that child is fed, educated, and all the other things it takes to raise children. So, you did. Hey, my hat is off to you. It's Dennis.
Yeah, it's Dennis. But
Is your name? What is your name?
My name is Dennis.
Dennis.
On
Okay,
Twitter,
Dennis. I have another call. That was unbelievably good point. I feel your pain too.
Robert from Tulsa.
Going so much trouble, and then these people come in without
Dennis, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Kevin.
Hey.
Hey, I got another
yeah.
caller I got to take. Okay, thank you, Dennis. Caller.
Robert from
Okay,
Tulsa.
Robert from Tulsa.
Hey, fellas. I just wanted to offer something here. Immigration in and of itself is not really a problem. We need able-bodied people right now. In case you hadn't noticed, a good part of our workforce is not working or is on disability. So immigration in and of itself is not a problem. What part of the problem here is, I think, and one of the things that really gets people worked up, is that a lot of these people are just being released out into the population. For example, when they are entered into the system, the only name they're entered in under the system is the one they give, which could be a phony name. Nobody knows anything. They can't do anything to verify who these people are, and they're just sort of tossed out into the streets and given a court date to come back. 90% of them don't come back.
Yeah, that's the truth.
That's the real
Yeah.
problem.
Mhm.
It's not immigration in and of itself. It's not such a huge problem. It's one that there's actually a very simple solution in there someplace, and I'll let the experts figure that out. But just immigration in and of itself is not a problem.
So why do you think this
Problem
is? What do you think this has happened, caller? Why do you think this has happened?
Why do I think this has happened? I think that it's a lot like a firestorm on Twitter, except for the people where these countries are. They I don't know if they have access to those sort of things, but even if they did, I think the word is out that it's easy to get here and you'll be set free one way or another. You'll be given a court date now.
Okay.
At some point.
All right. Well,
I honestly believe that that's the reason why.
I think that's that, and I also think that there may be someone encouraging it for some other reason than that, and we may talk about that a little later in the program. Hey, stay tuned. We'll be right back after these short messages. All right, welcome back. We were barraged a little bit by calls this last segment and had some great comments from the audience about their feelings on this immigration situation that's happening. A lot of you may not even know what's happening because in the last 4 weeks, the borders have just been opened wide. If you're watching the standard news, you're getting all kinds of stories. You should be doing your own research. There's lots of news services out there that'll are alternative news that you can get the facts from. And, you got to be careful because, some people are just spouting off a bunch of junk and then not researching it or checking it out. And earlier, Kevin was talking to me about this. Kevin, your points that you want to make here.
The points on immigration I want to make comes from both sides of the fence technically. And then what it is I see it from both points. We got people coming in that's flowing in by the rapids, and that has to partially do with what's going on in other countries that isn't been reported on mainstream media. And then what's going on inside South America right now with the World Cup, the government has been leaning towards more beneficiary rights toward the World Cup and what's going on down there instead of what's supposed to be provided for the people. And then they've been doing a cleanup. I'm gonna say it in a nice way, a cleanup of what they need to in their perspective to attract more tourists in. And then the people that's living in that part of the world isn't liking it, and then they've been having to deal with the onslaught of it. So the first thing that comes to their mind is America, land of the free. That's one reason. A second reason is, how do you keep currency afloat that's meant to die? And that's with new population, new people into the workflow. At least from my perspective and what I've been studying lately. And then according to some other people that stays on other part of the world, I don't want to get too detailed about people that I talk to, but it also talks about how sorry, I had to catch my voice. It talks about how most of them are coming in to help keep the dollar afloat because of what's going on between America and BRIC right now. And
so basically you're thinking that this is really a contrived thing to help boost the economy up.
When you have when you're in the United States that's built on security, you don't allow nothing unless it's allowed by you. So with this new influx of illegal immigrants, and then with the UN saying that we should treat immigrants as
undocumented immigrants.
They actually say we should treat them as well, I'm gonna stay with immigrants right now, but they actually said something else. And then it's whenever, say for instance, a war is going on somewhere, you need to provide a location for the people that needs to get away from that.
Oh yeah, kind of asylum. Yeah,
basically like that.
Yeah, political asylum or I guess economic asylum. So we just bring 90% of the world that's economically below the poverty level, just bring them all in the United States, because there's all other kind of places in the world that we could have prosperity if we just exported a little bit of it. Okay, it looks like we have Joe on the line. Hey Joe, welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Joe, welcome to Liberty Talk Radio. You're going to be interviewed. How about that?
Oh, boy.
We're dying here, Joe. We need a little help.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I didn't hear you.
I said you're dying. We're dying here. We need we need a little help. We're dying. We need you to input here.
It's easy, isn't it?
No, it's hard. Joe, what do you think about this imagery? Immigration and the imagery. What do you think about the immigration situation right now? Do you think it's contrived? Do you think it's just a natural thing that's happened due to things that are going on in the world? Do you think maybe there's something behind it?
Right. It's the way you define any problem. Immigration is not a problem. Immigration is an activity. It's a movement of people. And so immigration is not a problem. We say immigration is a problem. We have to define what that is. When we attempt to define it, we then get to the point of talking about, well, we're talking about illegal immigration.
Right. You got to define what you're talking about. I get it.
Now you need to define what you mean by illegal. Well, who in the studio today, right now, who is not an illegal immigrant?
Right.
I mean, indirectly. So they say, well, my father came here, and he came in via Ellis Island, and he had to sign all sorts of papers, and they even gave him a new name because he couldn't read or write, and they let him in the country. Well, then you have to ask yourself the question, who let him in the country? Well, someone else who came in, and then you have to say, well, was that person a legal immigrant, or was that person really an illegal immigrant? So did you have an illegal immigrant allowing an illegal immigrant in just by virtue of government decree? Well, you say, well, if it's just government decree that makes people legal or illegal, that doesn't make any sense. You see, the actual term, or even the activity of immigration. I'm sorry, I'm just out of breath.
No, that's fine. Hey, we got a caller, Joe, that's got a question for you.
Okay.
Caller, what's your name?
Well, it's Dennis again, and I listen to you guys every weekend. I'm a big fan, but I'm not going to let you get away with that immigration is not a problem. Here's the big problem. My kid that I adopted and I paid the money for him.
Well,
to
no,
come
he's
through.
saying I think that what Joe was saying was we have to define what immigration. Immigration itself is not a problem. We've been immigrating people since the beginning of this country. It's the illegal immigration that I think he's talking about that's a problem, or the immigration policy we have might be a problem.
Right. If you let it go, okay. If you do not enforce the laws that are here and get the people that are here and force them to come through the gate to get a real Social Security number, not use somebody else's, so that they can get a check on
Right. We got it.
These people are working off the books. There is another economy that doesn't go, that taxes are not taken care
Right.
of.
I agree with you.
And also, listen, my son is an immigrant. Okay, I went through the whole process and still going through it.
Right, we understand that. Hey, caller, we got people holding on the line. Let me get some other folks on the line that want to have something to say.
This. His opportunity, okay, his opportunity.
Caller, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take another call. Caller, are you on the line?
Go ahead, Andy.
Did we lose our caller because we took the other call? I think we lost our caller.
Andy will try back, I guess. I thought Andy was on that line, so. Oh, well.
Joe, you all right?
Joe?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Did I handle that okay, bud?
I can't understand you very well. You're coming across very raspy. Jimmy came in through.
Maybe I should be a little further from the microphone.
Yes, that's much better.
Is that much better? Okay, I've got it.
Now, see, the caller.
The caller was in the. He made a call earlier, and he talked about the. He wouldn't let us get away with the fact that that the immigration wasn't a problem, and I tried to straighten that out a little bit.
Our very concept of immigration, illegal immigration, is contrary to natural law. When we came here, the Indians did not say, or the natives did not say, "Let me see your papers." We decided to come here and settle here. There was no immigration office, and there were no rules. We had to determine what the problem is. Let's assume for a second that there was no welfare programs at all. All welfare was voluntary. If I saw someone in need, I took care of that person in need. If I so elected. If I elected not to, I'm not liable for anything. If there was no unemployment insurance, no minimum wage, if there was no, I'm sorry, my mind is very...
Well, right, if there weren't a lot of government programs and free giveaway programs.
Get away from the microphone. I can't understand.
I'm sorry. If there wasn't any free giveaway programs,
yes,
then that would be, that's what you're trying to say, is immigration should not be a problem. Immigration should be a normal, natural
Immigration should be encouraged, because then you have people moving in the direction that best suits them.
Right.
That improves their life.
Hey, Joe, we have another caller on the line. Caller? Who are we got on the line there?
Andy Sutton.
Andy Sutton, all right.
How you doing, Joe?
Hello, Andy. Thank you for calling in.
I'm glad to hear your voice. You seem to be doing well. That's good.
Thank you.
We thought we'd give you a little surprise, Joe. I talked to Andy and told him,
well wishes for Andy.
Yeah, well wishes from Andy, and we know that you're in the hospital room and probably got people coming in want to stick you with needles or something. So we didn't want to hold you up for the whole program. So we called Andy to bail us out.
Oh, I don't do bailouts.
Tell that to the banks.
Oh, that's good, Andy. I think we just changed topics here.
Oh, you don't want to get me started on that.
Well, Andy, you and Joe have been reading this book. I think you all discussed it on the internet show, and it's "The Death of Money" by James Rickards. And I know Joe has it there at the hospital with him. He's making a study of it, it looks like, and kind of give our audience a little Andy, if you would, give us a little overview of what his premise of the book is and some of the points that I got about 2 minutes, then we're going to go into break. We have less than 2 minutes, but then we're going to go into break, and if you'll hold on after the break, we'll go into it fully.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I haven't had a chance to actually read it. I mean, I've read some of the reviews and so forth of it, and a little bit of the beginning. But basically, there's a point that we could probably carry right into the next segment, and that's it should be called the death of currency. And it's not a knock on the author. He really knows his stuff, but it just goes to show. I mean, we all do it. We all call it money, and it really isn't. And that's basically what one of the premises of the book is. The fact that it really isn't money. What we deal with and we pay for goods and services every day, that's not money. It's just currency. And there's a big difference, and people say, you're just playing semantics. But it's a very important thing that people understand that.
Okay, well, listen, Andy, if you'll stay with us, and Joe, you can stay with us too if you feel up to it. And we're going to be back after the news and a few announcements. And Andy, we'll be back to share more about the death of money and actually the death of currency. Hey, welcome back. We're here at Liberty Talk Radio speaking to Andy Sutton. And Andy is an economist and has why don't you tell us a little bit? Tell us, Andy, a little bit about your business, and then we'll go into talking more about the difference between the death of money or the death of a currency.
Well, basically, what we try and do here is work with people, in most would call it a non-traditional way, where normally people would look at diversification and say, well, I've got 50% stocks and 50% bonds, I must be in good shape. We look at that as being, all right, well, you got 100% paper. And paper, like this whole currency thing, is only worth what it's backed by. And, the more you make of something, obviously, the less value it has, and so forth, things like that. So we try to look at things from a different perspective than most of the, your bank, traditional, Keynesian-type advisors, and understand that, hey, when you have a situation like we have with the dollar, and you look back at history, and that's one of the nice things about the book is it has enough history in it. And I've said for a long time that people are always looking for a crystal ball, and when they want to know what's going to happen a year from now or a month from now, and you got a lot of frankly dishonest individuals out there who are preying on that and applying all kinds of doomsday advice. This is going to happen in 2 weeks, blah, blah, that kind of stuff. You don't need a crystal ball. You want to know what's going to happen. All you need is a history book, because we don't learn, and Americans in particular, we don't remember the Great Depression. There's very few people who were alive during it, and that's just one example.
Right.
And that was only 80-some years ago. What about 200 years ago, 300 years ago? We don't even remember what liberty is in this country. If we did, half of this nonsense that's going on now wouldn't be going on. So we're a prime example of history repeats itself because people don't pay attention. So
we don't learn from history. We just don't learn from history, do we?
Exactly. If you want to know what's going to happen, learn your history, and you'll know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun, as they say.
Question is, we've been taught the wrong history, though.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
That's a problem as well, especially when you get into economics and things like that, and things are twisted. And you pick up a textbook, and it says, "Well, the Great Depression was caused by a crash in the stock market," and that's just absolutely wrong.
You're kidding? Whoa! Wait a minute now. Wrong. Hey, why don't you explain that? It wasn't a stock market crash.
No, well, the market crashed for the same reason there was a depression. Basically, what you had a credit bubble, and when it burst, not only did it take down the stock market, it took down the economy along with it.
So they focus on the stocks, thinking it's a stock crash, but actually it was the practices using credit that led up to the stock crashing.
Well, yeah, it was a leverage problem, just like 2008. And again, prime example, we have supposedly the best and the brightest. At all these great government alphabet soup individual institutions. The SEC, not part of the government, but you know what I'm saying. We have all these really smart people there. They have all kinds of doctoral degrees from, fancy places like Harvard and Yale and London School of Economics and places like that. And you put all of them together, and what did you get? You got the same result that you had back in 1930 all over again. You know why? Because, first of all, these people don't give a rip about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about the little guy. They care about, their cronies. And that was the same way it was back in 1930. So these people are supposedly watching out for the little guy, and the little guy, being dumb and not learning from history, says, oh, okay, we have all these great regulatory things and laws and blah, blah, blah. All this is going to be fine, and we can just go and spend all this money and borrow like crazy. And
they're going to take care of us.
Sailors. Yeah, and it's all going to just take care of itself because we're smart now. We have computers, and we have the Internet, and we have all these geniuses there on Wall Street and in Washington and all these in London and Brussels and all these other places. And they're just going to make sure that everything's just smoothed over. Yeah, hey, you know what? Great job, guys. You smoothed it over real well. That's like taking a bucket of that super glue and pouring it into the San Andreas Fault and saying, hey, we're not going to have any more earthquakes. That's the problem with these guys are doing.
So do you believe that the banks deliberately caused this? Was it the Federal Reserve? Like, who was it? Was it the government? Did they have an involvement in it?
Like, which thing?
In the implosion,
in the bubble
everything,
of 2008,
the crash,
2008.
The bubble, all this. Where do they play the role?
Well, what do you think, Andy? What do you think of that question?
Well, this is where it shifts to opinion, and this is my opinion. Obviously, you have a government that is basically nothing more than an enforcement arm for a lot of these large banks. 2008 proved it. The government did what the banks wanted, not what was in the best interest of the country. When the government tried, there were some members of Congress that said, hey, they didn't want to issue a whole bunch of money and credit to these clowns, and they basically got told how it was, and 72 hours later the votes changed and went the other way. Yeah, I think it was absolutely caused on purpose, because it's greed, and
they all stood to benefit from it.
Exactly. You look at who benefited and who are the ones that are pulling the strings and putting these guys in office and all that sort of thing. It makes sense.
Andy,
so they had a tremendous opportunity to make a ton of money, and they don't care about mom and pop kettle and their $50,000 IRA nest egg savings. They don't care.
Andy,
if they can get it from you, they're going to get it.
Andy, do you think, I've got a thought here just today, as a matter of fact, about the zero interest rates that they've got out there, and now they're talking negative interest rates. And I got thinking, just in this same vein, and they talk about how we need to do it for the economy and for everybody. Are they using any of that money to invest in? Are the people who have access to that zero money?
Well, see, the thing with that is, you have to understand, rewind back to 29. The whole thing went down because of credit. That's the engine of the Keynesian economic machine, is credit and borrowing. So how do you stimulate borrowing? Well, you make interest rates zero. Well, see, the thing is, who are they zero for? Not for you. You go to borrow on a credit card, you're going to pay 12, 15, 20%, depending on how they assign your credit score. You don't get it for 0%.
No, you sure don't.
That's for the ones up top, huh?
But who gets it for zero? The banks.
Commercial banks, investment banks, large corporations, everybody before we get to it. And by the time it gets to us, everything that we're trying to buy is worth more by then. It's an increase.
So, again, and the card is always played, well, these people are just morons. They're ignorant. They're not ignorant. They're not morons.
You think they have they have all this stuff? They're calculating it the best way they can to manipulate the markets so they can come out on top. That's unbelievable.
I don't know if they sit there and day by day calculate it, but they know that if you blow up a housing bubble, for example, that's not going to go on forever. They know that. They know that the mortgage bonds that went out were not all AAA. They shouldn't have all been rated AAA. When you have a AAA rated mortgage bond that's selling for 500 basis points, or is paying, I should say, more than 500 basis points more than a Treasury bond when the Treasury bond is supposed to be zero risk and they're both rated AAA, there's a problem.
They know these bonds are bad.
That's exactly what they had, and they knew exactly. They knew it was bad. They pushed it anyway. I want to ask how many people went to jail? How many people lost a country club membership, a yacht, a Rolls Royce? Nothing. Yeah, okay, they cooked Bernie Madoff for a little bit, and that other guy, Stanford. You know, a big whoop.
Yeah, I think that all was a dog and pony show more than it was substance, because all the ones that really benefited, and people like Rupert Murdoch, he benefited greatly from this thing. No, everybody thinks he's just little Mr. Grandpa, a nice guy, but, you know, this guy benefits from every one of these big moves in the economy.
Every single thing. And then it's not just the fact that he was aiming at the smaller people, he was also aiming at the big people, and that's why they really just started aiming at him. If he would have fell in line like every other bank was
Madoff,
doing.
you mean?
Madoff, yeah.
Madoff, yeah. I was talking about not Rupert Murdoch. I was thinking about, that's the broadcaster. I was thinking
Warren Buffett.
I'm Warren Buffett. That's who I was thinking about, Warren Buffett. I'm sorry.
Andy, Kevin had a really interesting thought earlier during the show, and I wanted to get your take on it. Do you believe that the deliberate inviting of the immigrants into the country, do you think that affects the economy in some way? Do you think that would be a benefit for the government to do that? What's your take on or the bankers? What's your connection or your opinion on the connection between the economy and immigration?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different things going on there, and you know the party line has always been, well, you know, they're going to do the jobs that Americans aren't willing to do.
Exactly.
Well, see, there's your first problem. See, that's a policy problem because we've made it.
They see immigration as
really
a cheap work labor. I'm sorry.
Well, it is. It is. We've made it cost effective for people to sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, welfare has become a career choice now, unfortunately. And so they say, well, you know, we need to bring all these, you know, illegal aliens in. Well, you know what? You don't need to bring anybody in. You got how many hundreds of thousands of people, you know, Americans leaving the workforce every month now, you know, because for whatever reason they're discouraged. Some of them are retiring. I get that.
Yeah, but some jobs have actually been given the legal right to fire people without a given reason at all, especially here in Oklahoma, actually.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of people that just left the workforce, and they've been out 12 months, and you know they've been labeled discouraged.
Discouraged, yeah, I think that's the big word, discouraged. I wonder how many, you know, actually are out there that are just doing odd jobs and just getting by, living with mom down in the basement, you know. I mean, there's no the economy is just not vibrant as it was at one time.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at the jobs that have been, and I use this word with tongue-in-cheek sarcasm, created since this whole blow-up back in 2008, the vast majority of them are jobs that really, in today's, with the inflation we have and the destruction of purchasing power in the currency that we use, they really don't pay a living wage. You know, people are having two jobs. You have college graduates, they're not moving out, they're not getting married, they're not having kids. So you're seeing a demographic shift because of this. And what's going to happen now is you're going to bring in all these additional people, and what are they going to do? Well, they're going to start using up services, and they're not going to pay taxes because they're here, quote-unquote, illegally, and so they're basically going to become a drain on the system, even if they go and work.
Right, even if they're workers, but they're not contributing to the what everybody else is.
They work for minimum wage under the table. They're going to send their kid to school. Well, their kids, they're not doing anything to support that school.
So, in a way, could you say that you're saying that the economy has passed the point of return, or is there still a way to bring it back?
Around.
I think there's always a way to bring things around.
If the leaders are willing, huh?
How much pain you're going to have to inflict to do that. And we have no tolerance for pain in this country.
Yeah, people prefer not to lose their comfort zone just to make things better sometimes.
You could see that if you looked at the consumer borrowing trend over the past 5-6 years. We had a steady growth from like 93 through 2008, and then we got into 2009, and people actually got scared for about a year, and they actually started in net to pay off consumer debt, and that lasted for about a year, and this is when the quantitative easing really got going, And this is when the government basically said, hey, you know what, American people, if you're not going to keep the credit game going, we're going to do it for you. And we're just going to spend like crazy. And, we had the quantitative easing, and then people just got to the point, for whatever reason, some probably had to do it because they needed groceries. We started borrowing again. Guess what? The slope of that curve now is steeper than it was before the crash in '08. So we have no tolerance for pain.
Andy, what if it did make a recovery, and if we did see things change, or if things weren't as they are now? How would you see, what do you see as a vibrant American economy? Kind of paint a word picture for us. If there wasn't a bunch of handouts, a bunch of welfare going on, what would you see going on from business to business down Main Street? Paint that picture for us. What we really should be about.
Well, basically what you would have is you would have a country, full of obviously states and cities and so forth, and you would have very low unemployment, like real unemployment. I'm not talking about these cooked up numbers that BLS puts out. You'd have people working. You'd have manufacturing. People would be making things. We'd be consuming a lot of those things here. The leftovers we'd be sending overseas. You would have your average family, with a breadwinner, kind of like the 50s. You had the family with the one breadwinner, very little debt, and they didn't live exorbitantly, but they lived comfortably, and you didn't have all this rat race stress and all this other nonsense that we have now. And you would see, lots of small businesses, and that's one thing. I mean, I'm not against big companies because there's a lot of big companies that have done a lot of really good things. But at the same time, when you look at hiring patterns, it's the small businesses that are the engines of job growth.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because we have, when you walk down any street in America, drive down any superhighway, interstate in America, you see pretty much a brand name economy out there. You see the big Motel 6, you see the gas station chains. You go inside the city, you see the big coffee shop chains, the big big box store chains, and it just seemed like we're being taken over by big corporation box stores and franchises. And the guy that wants to start a business, he's coming up against some pretty powerful people when he tries to start a business, and it's tough to come against that kind of competition. I'm in the advertising business myself, and years ago you could find lots of small businesses to call on to do local radio advertising or television advertising. It's tougher and tougher to find those prospects out there.
Oh, see, that's exactly what we would. That's a trend that would need to be reversed. And it's not that we need to get rid of big corporations, but you have a continuum. On one side, you have monopoly. On the other side of the continuum, you have perfect competition, where you have lots and lots of firms. And we've been moving closer and closer. We have all these little oligopolies. You look at, back in, what was it, the 80s, they broke up Bell Telephone. And you had all these spin-off companies as a result of that. What's going on now? It's consolidating again. And that's the way a lot of these sectors are becoming. This one's buying out that one. Healthcare is a huge area where that's been taking place. Banking is how many? You look at the little bank that's been on the corner for the last 50 years. It's probably had 10 different names.
Oh, yeah. I got a buddy in the sign business in the Carolinas, and most of probably 80% of his income comes from changing out the signs on the TransFund machines.
Well, see, there you go. That's become a trend in so many areas, and we're moving closer and closer to this oligopoly type model. From the small business model. That's a trend that would have to be reversed. And unfortunately, that's a trend you need.
Less regulation would help a lot of that.
That would help a lot.
Yeah, most of the regulations designed to benefit the powerful companies and to make it harder for the upstarts.
Well, I'm a prime example of that. I mean, I can tell you as a result of Dodd-Frank back in 2010 and 11 and how that's been implemented. It's increased costs dramatically. It's made it harder to compete, and exactly, it was a bullseye right on the forehead of the small financial firms, because they want to consolidate that. And the big guys, they haven't had any problems. They've got scope economies, span economies to in their favor in terms of dealing with that kind of stuff. And and the government knows this. Maybe your individual, dimwit senator or congressman doesn't know it, but guess what? They have all these advisors that work for them. And again, these people are not stupid. They know what these trends are. They know what these policies are going to do. Yeah, sometimes there's an occasional unintended consequence. Wow, that caught us off guard. Okay. But, these major macro trends, this isn't catching anybody by surprise. This is being done, whether you want to call it a script, a plan, a playbook, whatever. I call it basically unfettered greed. I don't necessarily believe that there's a gigantic conspiracy. I just think it's unfettered greed, and it's just kind of taking its course. And unfortunately, what happens, and all you have to do is go back and look at history and see what happens when this gets to a certain point. It implodes. And that's what's going to happen, and it's probably going to take a while because there's a lot of tools available to prop things up, and we've already seen quite a few of them. Don't ever believe, when you hear this, the Fed's out of ammo. They're not out of ammo. There's quite a few gimmicks that they have at their disposal that they can use to keep this thing going. And
do you think most of them want to keep it going?
A while.
Do you think the government, the Fed, wants to keep it going as long as they can keep the game going?
Well, why not? I mean, they've got everything going in their favor right now. I mean, if push the government out for a minute and just look at them as kind of like the traffic cop, so to speak, because that's basically what the government is. It's not of the people and for the people anymore. So put them aside. You look at how are things going for these mega banks right now? Well, they're going pretty good. Well, why would they want that to end? If this whole thing collapses, that means that for some of them, the party's going to be over. Now, what does happen towards the end is they start to cannibalize each other.
Kind of like being invested in Apple. You want to make sure Apple does good. So when you're a person that's invested inside a dollar, especially one of important currency, you want to make sure that the dollar stays afloat no matter what, especially when you're in the top 10 businesses. And then when you're especially dealing with the feds, right?
Exactly. These banks, they have gold, some of them. But, primarily American banks, they deal in dollars. They don't want it to crash. The Federal Reserve doesn't want it to crash because if it crashes, guess what? They're out of business.
Are these big corporations?
Great.
Are these big corporations? You talked about gold and you talked about currency just a second ago. You didn't talk about gold, but you did about currency. The big corporations, are they hedging like the big governments some of their investments and putting money in gold? I heard there's even universities doing it.
Yeah, there seems to be a move towards that. You take a look at a lot of these colleges, like you just mentioned, their endowment funds. They're moving some of that over to hard assets. And again, it comes back to, you look at the average person, and they say, well, I got the dollar, and yeah, that's good, and it's greenback and all this other stuff. You look at where the big money goes, where the smart money is going in the world today. It's going into hard assets. And the media, they're not going to talk about this because it doesn't behoove them.
Yeah, Warren Buffett, what did he do? He bought a train, a complete railroad system. He bought a railroad. Yeah. That's pretty hard assets. That'll make money anytime.
Definitely.
Well, and people will say, well, that's a traditional investment. Well, no, it's not. Not to buy the whole railroad. That's exactly a hard asset.
He's hedged. He's hedging against that. Hey, Andy,
sure he is.
We only got about a minute left here, and before we go off the air, we just wanted to let people know that you are an investment advisor, advisor,
Yes.
And how would someone get in touch with you?
Well, they can call the office here toll free, 888-633-5420, or they can look.
Do that again. It's radio, Tell them what that phone number is again.
888-633-5420, or they can look us up online, www.sutton, SUTTON-associates.net. Or they can just Google my name, Andy Sutton, and you'll find the site that way.
And you're not a commission guy. You're a fee-based agency, so you're looking out the best interests of the people, and you're hired to do that. And it's not how much stock you can move back and forth across the portfolio. So give Andy a call. Hey, we're out of time, folks. Tune in next week for Liberty Talk Radio. We want to thank you for tuning in. Andy, thank you for being our guest. And Joe, I hope we did you proud, and we'll see you next week.